While hobbits celebrated victory with ale and song, one hero sat alone in darkness, unable to sleep, unable to forget. Frodo Baggins saved Middle-earth, but lost his soul. He suffered from severe PTSD and crushing depression that would destroy him from within. This is how the greatest hero of the Third Age was broken by the very mission that made him legendary. When Frodo returned to the Shire, something fundamental had broken inside him. The green hills and familiar hobbit holes felt alien. Tolkien wrote that Frodo felt like a grey figure, dark and lost, even in the brightest sunshine. His face was drawn with pain and weariness. The wound from the Morgul blade never healed. Every year on the anniversary, Frodo would fall ill, becoming white and transparent, as if darkness was claiming him again. But the physical wound was nothing compared to his psychological scars. He couldn't sleep. The eye of Sauron burned in his mind. The ring whispered to him. In nightmares, he stood at Mount Doom and failed every time, claiming the ring for himself. These are classic PTSD symptoms: intrusive memories, vivid nightmares, and flashbacks. A door slamming sent him into panic. Food had no taste. Wine brought no joy. This emotional numbness is a hallmark of depression. Tolkien portrayed a hobbit hollowed out, living among people who could never comprehend the darkness he'd witnessed. The cruelest part was the invisibility of Frodo's suffering. The Shire was saved, but many hobbits barely acknowledged what he'd done. Some even resented the changes his journey brought. Frodo tried writing his account in the Red Book, but words couldn't capture having your will devoured by ancient evil. The ring had promised him everything: power, heroism, protection for everyone he loved. And at the cracks of doom, he didn't have strength to let go. Tolkien made it clear, "I have come, but I do not choose now to do what I came to do. I will not do this deed. The ring is mine." That failure haunted him daily. The ring was only destroyed because Gollum bit off his finger. Frodo was saved by accident, not by his own will. This constant rumination on failure created a depressive spiral from which he could never escape. Even Sam couldn't fully understand. Sam had carried the ring briefly and given it back. He didn't know what it was like to bear it for months, feeling your personality slowly overwritten by something malevolent. This moral injury, guilt from transgressing your own ethics, combined with PTSD, created a devastating dual burden. His depression deepened daily, as guilt and trauma became unbearable. Frodo's physical condition deteriorated alongside his mental state. The Morgul wound flared with agonizing regularity. The missing finger was a permanent reminder of failure. Every glance at his mutilated hand replayed his moment of weakness. The ring left invisible marks too. Frodo had been fundamentally altered, becoming thin in the world, stretched between seen and unseen realms. He would feel phantom sensations, reaching for the ring that no longer existed, hearing its voice even though it was destroyed. This is hypervigilance, a core PTSD symptom, constant alertness that never turns off. Every shadow might hide a Nazgul. Every stranger might be an enemy. Even in the peaceful Shire, Frodo's body remained in survival mode, his PTSD keeping him trapped in perpetual fear. His relationships collapsed. He withdrew from social gatherings completely. This isolation is a classic indicator of severe depression, the inability to connect with others, the feeling that you're fundamentally different and alone. He couldn't muster any response to normal hobbit concerns. How could trivial matters compare to the fate of the world? By the second year, it was clear Frodo would never recover. His PTSD and depression had become chronic, permanent. Sam watched his friend fade, finding him standing silent and looking far away, lost in dark memories. The Shire's traditional remedies, good food, comfortable homes, friendly company, had no power over Frodo's condition. His wounds were spiritual, not physical. He had looked into pure evil and felt its corruption inside him. That exposure leaves permanent changes. Gandalf recognized that Frodo had been damaged in ways Middle-earth couldn't heal. Frodo had worn the Ring of Power, felt its will trying to dominate his own, and been unable to resist. That failure, that moment of corruption, could never be undone. The tragedy deepened because Frodo received no recognition. Great celebrations honored Aragorn and Gondor's soldiers. But the quiet hobbit who destroyed the ring, who paid the ultimate price in psychological torment, remained unknown. Frodo's isolation became absolute. His depression created an impenetrable wall. He was trapped in his own mind, replaying failures, reliving trauma through PTSD flashbacks, unable to escape the psychological prison the ring built inside him. In the third year, Frodo made his final decision. He would leave Middle-earth entirely, sailing to the Undying Lands with the elves. His PTSD and depression were so severe that remaining meant certain collapse. This wasn't a reward, it was a medical necessity. Frodo was dying slowly in Middle-earth, poisoned by wounds that couldn't heal. The Undying Lands represented his only chance for recovery, where powers greater than any in Middle-earth might address his spiritual damage. The farewell at the Grey Havens was devastating. Sam watched his dearest friend sail away, knowing they'd never meet again. Frodo embraced his companions one last time, then stepped onto the ship, leaving behind the Shire he'd saved, but could no longer bear to inhabit. His departure wasn't triumphant. It was an evacuation from a battlefield, where he continued suffering long after fighting ended. He left not as a conquering hero, but as a casualty, one of the walking wounded who couldn't be saved by conventional means. He gave up his ability to exist peacefully in the world he saved. Frodo Baggins saved Middle-earth, but Middle-earth couldn't save him. His PTSD and depression destroyed him as surely as any physical wound. Tolkien, who experienced World War I's horrors, understood this intimately. The quest wasn't a clean adventure. It was a grinding ordeal that left permanent scars. The real tragedy happened after victory. While the world celebrated and rebuilt, Frodo remained trapped in his worst moment. He claimed the ring. He wanted its power. That knowledge consumed him daily until nothing remained but to leave entirely. His story teaches that heroism has costs beyond the battlefield. Saving the world doesn't guarantee saving yourself. PTSD doesn't respect victory. Depression can follow triumph. Psychological wounds can be more crippling than physical ones. When Frodo sailed west, he left behind any hope of peace in the world he knew. His departure admitted that some battles can't be won, some wounds can't be healed, and some prices are too high even for world salvation. The ring was destroyed, Sauron defeated, but Frodo was broken beyond repair. His true heroism wasn't destroying the ring. It was surviving long enough to reach the Grey Havens, finding strength to keep going when every day was agony, choosing to leave rather than let his pain poison the world further. Frodo Baggins, the hero who saved everything but himself, who carried a burden no one else could bear, and who paid for it with his very soul. Some sacrifices leave wounds that never, ever heal.